Hey guys, it is time to plant globe onions. For some of us, if you live in a southern mild winter climate like I do, southern part of the United States or equivalent, it is time right now to plant globe onions. Now, for the rest of you who live in colder winter climates, your time is coming. It's going to be in spring, and I will remind you, and I'll probably refer you back to this video because other than the timing, everything else is exactly the same. So in order to understand why we in mild climates plant in fall and you in colder climates plant in spring, you have to know a little bit about how onions work. Now I know this firsthand because for years I grew onions and the best harvest I got looked like this. So after, a few years, more than I'd like to admit, of that type of harvest, I just figured I couldn't grow onions. Until I heard that onions are photothermoperiodic. And that just means they're very sensitive to daylight temperature and daylight hours. An onion plant is stimulated into stopping green growth production and starting bulb production by the lengthening of days as the sun moves north in the spring and early summer. Different varieties need a certain amount of sunlight per day for a specific number of days. Sounds complicated. I'm going to simplify things. The further you are from the equator, either way, the longer your days are in the summer. The closer you are to the equator, the shorter your summer days are. So in the US, it's broken down like this map right here. So the northern part of the US, you're going to grow long day onions. The middle section, you're going to grow intermediate day onions. And the southern section, we grow short day onions. Now, unfortunately for us here in Southern California, and you guys in other southern states, let me know if you've run into this. There's a problem because the nurseries, the garden centers stock long day onions. I don't know why, because in a southern climate, you will never, ever get a bulb from a long day onion. Well, unless it's like the ones that I showed you, very tiny. You'll get lots of tops and you can use those as green onions or scallions or whatever. But if you're looking for a nice, big, juicy bulb, it's not going to happen. So here in southern climates, we can do a couple different things. Here in Southern California especially, we can either in November, mid-November is a good time, plant or sow seeds of short day onions. Now, if we miss that window, we can wait till late winter, like February, and we can plant or sow seeds of intermediate day onions. Now, those of you who are in colder winter climates, take a break. I will remind you again to, plant at the right time and the right type for your location. But go ahead and get your seeds now and look for the type on that map. I'll put a link down below to that or somehow do it. Maybe just rewind. I don't know if I can do that. And find out where you are and get the right seeds for your particular area for onions. Now, if you're not in the United States, I'm sure you can Google wherever you live and what type of onion you're supposed to grow. And all over the world, it's going to be short day, long day, or intermediate. So today I've got two different varieties I'm planting. Both are short day. I've got a red burgundy onion, so that's a red onion, and I've got Texas early grano or grano. These are both short day onions that will work anywhere you have a short day zone, and these are two really good ones. Now, onions like loose, well-draining soil, and just on last week's video, you saw me amend this soil. So definitely the soil's great, and being in a raised bed, the drainage is awesome. So loose, well-draining soil. They also like lots of sun. Now, sun is an issue here in my garden during the winter because the sun moves toward the south, and we've got two big palm trees here that block some of the sun, and we've got a big tree over there in the corner that blocks some of the sun. So this is the sunniest area in the garden in the wintertime, and that's why they're all going to go here. Now, I'm going to divide this 10-foot bed into 3 sections. I'm going to have red onions, brown onions, and at the end, I'm going to plant my garlic, which we'll be doing next week's video on that. Now, onions are root crops. So we want to develop the biggest, juiciest root we can, right? You want a nice looking onion. And so for roots, if you've watched in the past and know, phosphorus is what you need for strong root development. So I'm going to be using Neptune's Harvest crab and lobster, great source of phosphorus. And the reason I like that is because it's got different particle sizes in it, because literally it's ground crab and lobster shell. So the smaller particles break down almost immediately and feed your plant. And the larger particles will start breaking down over time. So it's a great short-term and long-term fertilizer. The thing with phosphorus is, in a lot of soils, it doesn't move very well through the soil. And so we tend to, when you really want to get phosphorus to the root level, you need to put it there physically. And so we want to put the phosphorus down below where the plant is going to be growing so it has full access to that as it needs it. So what I'm going to do is, and I have drip lines going through the bed, so I'm just going to make sure that my little trenches are right under the drip lines. So I'm just going to, and they're only going to be about 1/4 inch deep at the most. So right along the drip line, I'm going to make a little trench. And I'm going to make it a little bit deeper than I'm going to be planting them, because I'm going to be putting the crab and lobster in there first, and then putting a little more soil on top of that crab and lobster, and then putting my seeds on. Seeds in. So I think I'll plant my red onions at this end, but I'm going to sprinkle the crab and lobster down the row. And just work it in a little bit. Okay. Put some of the soil back in there. All right, now I'm going to sprinkle the seeds in. And you want to do it, you know, you don't have to worry too much about the spacing, because we can thin them. And the great thing about onions is, in a month or two, you're going to see if you've got blank spots, or if you've got spots that are too full of seedlings, and you can pluck the ones that are, not pluck them, but gently pull them out of wet soil. And it's really hard to kill an onion seedling. They're very sturdy. And so pull them out of the spots where you have too many, and just transplant them into the spots where you might have a little thin area. Right now, and you want them to be about 4 inches apart when they're up. So I'm just going to sprinkle the seeds. I have an average amount just right along that trench, and then just cover it up. So I'm going to keep planting these, and I'm not going to have you watch everything. I'm going to have 4 rows of onions all the way down, except for the last section is going to be garlic. Then I'm going to water them in, and once they're up, I'm going to start feeding them every 2 weeks with a well-balanced fertilizer. So I'll be using either the Neptune's Harvest tomato and veg, or the Neptune's Harvest fish and kelp, just as a general purpose fertilizer every couple of weeks. And then you're going to want to stop doing that after about 4 to 5 months. You're going to see the plant starting to bulb up. And at that point, you don't want to give them any extra nitrogen. What happens if you give them extra nitrogen during the bulbing process is the bulbs will start to split. You definitely don't want that. So once they start to bulb, they're done with the fertilizer until harvest time. I'll come back in 5 or 6 months and at harvest time, and I'll show you what to look for, and I'll show you how to harvest them, and how to cure them, and how to store them. I don't know what you consider a small space garden. I feel that my garden is a small space garden. It's not a balcony garden, but it's a small space garden. And I like to get the most I can out of the small space that I have. And so I do a lot of interplanting. And a great thing to interplant with onions are other either root crops like beets or carrots that are quick growing, so on the smaller side. Now you can pull a beet just about any time. golf ball size. They're really tender, so that would be great for here. They can grow that big in a very short amount of time. Smaller size carrots are great too, because they're up and done and harvested before the onions even start to bulb. And so they're not going to affect the onions underneath the soil. And the tops grow about the same rate as the onion tops. So they're not going to shade each other out too much either. So those are great options. Also, any kind of lettuce that you want to put, maybe like leaf lettuce, not head lettuce, but leaf lettuce that's going to be harvested fairly quickly. That's a great one too. So I'm going to plant carrots in here with mine, but I'm going to freeze my carrot seeds first, and then I'll plant them out here tomorrow. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, last month I did a video on how to easily pre-sprout carrots, because sometimes you can have some problems with them planting them directly in the soil. So I'll put a link to that video down below, and you'll know what I'm talking about, and hopefully it'll help you out like I've heard from a lot of you. It has helped you. So like I said, next week we're going to be doing planting garlic. And so that's going to be fun. I love planting garlic. I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to plant the same garlic that I grew last year. So some of the bulbs that I kept, I'm going to plant those. So for all of you in the United States, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and I will see all of you next weekend.